What's one unsolved mystery you'd like to see solved before you die? Are we alone in the universe? I can't believe more people didn't want to know this. This would be one of my top questions. But the question I want the answer to the most is how the universe came to be and why there is something rather than nothing. Same. Like existence itself does not make sense at all. Like why does the universe exist in the first place? So interesting. This is a question that I want its answer the most too. Marshall Islands 370. I'm sure they'll eventually find the wreckage and have a better idea exactly what happened, but even today they are still finding old WWII ships and even ships older than that. So I hope that it's found before I leave, because I do wonder what happened to that plane. I just hope it's a matter of years or decades, and not centuries. This was my second mystery. Still look for anything new every now and then. How did this even happen? The ocean is big, and finding anything that goes down in it after a certain period of time is basically impossible to find. Especially things that both break up easily and sink easily. Suicide is the most likely, followed by atmospheric breach that knocked everyone out while they were on autopilot, or a mixture of the two. I just want to know who DB Cooper is. I know it's lame, but I'm curious. It was Loki. Nope, it was Agatha all along. The disappearance of William Tyrrell. Basically a 3-year-old kid was kidnapped in his front yard after the foster grandma went inside for a glass of water and she heard screaming from the sister, and when she ran out he was gone. This happens around 2014 and I still remember his face on the news in his Spider-Man costume. This one still gets me. I often think of William Tyrrell and what his family, foster and biological, must go through every waking moment. Especially now I'm a mother of a toddler. I live with my sister, brother-in-law, and my siblings. When he was about 3 my nephew went missing for like 15 minutes, and my sister woke me up screaming that they couldn't find him. Still the worst way I've ever woken up, and he was only missing for a short time. He was hiding in the house because he had gotten a popsicle when he shouldn't and didn't want to get in trouble. My best friend's little brother disappeared from an army base last July. Good or bad, I'd like to know what happened to Private Richard Halliday. I was born and raised in that area. I hate to say it, but I would put money on him being dead and buried somewhere on feet. Bliss. That's also the location where the young asylum-seeking kids have been detained/disappeared from Gov custody. There's a lot of sketch crap going on at Feet. Bliss. Fort Bliss itself is not sketch. I was stationed there from 2015-2019. I'm still in El Paso in college. What is sketch, however, are the sketchy parts of town, which other places also have, and Juarez gang activity. Bliss is nothing compared to Feet, Hood or Chicago. What are the Mormons keeping in their vault that's surrounded in granite and heavily guarded? 50/50 money or some random thing they think is magic? I'm really not trying to crap on the Mormons too much, but you start reading up on Joseph Smith and it's rather freaking amazing Mormonism ever caught on. Mormonism is just the Scientology of the 1800s, and I cannot be convinced otherwise. I would love to see how a black hole works before I die. We know it sucks in all the matter to the singularity, but we don't know where it goes from there. Finding how a black hole works will change the understanding of the universe itself. I hope it happens during my lifetime. I imagine they're creating new universes. Sort of how the idea behind the Big Bang suggests our universe came from a speck the size of an atom. Perhaps that speck was the outlet of another universe's black hole. Signed, a stoned Redditor. Where did the Nazis stash the entire amber room from St. Petersburg Palace? I used to work as a guide at a castle where it was believed to have been hidden. Every once in a while, a tourist would ask about it. One day, a small group even managed to sneak away from the tour and hide for the night at the castle, searching for it. No success though. Hilarious. Sneaky frickers. Must have been fun. In 1994 I found a cinema ticket stub for Speed in my jacket pocket. I never saw Speed at the cinema, nor did I lend my jacket to anybody that had. I'd like to know where it came from, so I can one day sit through the film without wondering about it. You in another reality saw the movie, stashed the ticket, and wonders where it went. Delphi murders. That video is too compelling for Bridge Guy to not be found. I'm amazed that they had the foresight to take the video. It haunts me. Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. This is one I'd like to see answered. Did she die in the hotel room? Is she somewhere still alive not knowing who she really is? Or even reading this right now wondering what happened to that little girl with the same eyes as her? Did the parents do it? What, if anything, does the German suspect have to do with it? So many unanswered questions. Last I heard they were searching that German suspect's property and found like a hidden passageway. I thought for sure he did after that, but no update on the case happened. Isabella Stewart Museum art recovered. That's a good one. I saw the documentary. One of the suggestions is that they are in a private collection or the people who stole them are dead and they are stored away someplace. I think the main theory is that the heist was done on the behest of a private collector/s. Some of what they stole wasn't worth as much as other pieces and they passed by and didn't steal some incredible pieces. They had a list, they grabbed what they were hired to steal and they left. The works are, hopefully, stored properly with private collectors now and will, maybe, one day be returned. The disappearance of Amy Bradley. We grew up on the same street and played together as kids. The loss was devastating to her family. Definitely agree with you on that one. Feel as though the cruise line could have done more to help her family. Also all of those people who reported sightings of her. Can't imagine how difficult all that is for her family. They totally could have. I think she was alive for a time, but is likely gone now. The what ifs and near misses make it even harder. Not all of the Egyptian pyramids have been full explored. I'd like to know what's in and under those pyramids. Also, what is hidden deep in the Vatican's archives? I'd like to know that too. And while we are here, what about the mystery of the missing packet? Whenever you send something over the internet. Sorry for my ignorance. What is the mystery of the missing packet? Made a few Google searches and got results to Amazon Books and Tales for Kids. When you ping an internet, you send a small amount of packets. For some reason there's always one packet lost during this process and nobody can figure it out. I can't remember the actual name or terminology for this mystery, but that's basically it. That one packet lost isn't enough to cause issues, and I'm pretty sure there's not really that much in there to begin with. It just vanishes. As someone from Columbus, the disappearance of Brian Schaffer. It kills me that all these years later there still isn't a definitive answer to what happened to him. I really hope the case gets solved in my lifetime. There's been so much construction on High Street, I just feel like he must be under concrete somewhere. It's very sad. What is dark matter? Or better put, what about physics do we not understand that is causing the effects we see that we attribute to dark matter? I really want it to be a mirror universe. Where Ian Brady buried Keith Bennett. I doubt we'll ever know now, unless someone happens to stumble over his remains. But my heart aches when I think of that poor boy's mother being tormented by his killer until the end of her life. Yeah, that was awful. I know Mira Hindley went back to Moors a few times with the police to find him, but I honestly believe she was doing it more for her image. Her and Brady knew exactly where everybody was, so there's no way Hindley forgot. Yeah, they documented their crimes. Keith was the only one whose remains weren't found, and he was the only power those two Poes had left to enjoy. Allegedly there may be some documents Brady left locked away with his solicitor to be opened after his death, but police haven't been able to access them. Winnie looking out over the moors, knowing Keith was alone out there somewhere, has stuck with me for a long time. What happened to the famous Alcatraz escapees? Right? I mean, logic tells me they went hypothermic and drowned, but those strange women at the mother's funeral always gets me. What happened to Isabella Ariel Kalua? How does a 6-year-old go missing, and after a week of search parties her parents just stop looking because they have to go to work? I'd search day and night until I knew where my babies were. The parents absolutely know what happened. No way that they don't. I looked up a few articles. CPS investigated them twice because the poor kid was seriously hurt. And a 6-year-old conveniently had a habit of sleeping outside in the yard alone and her parents were just okay with that. They know. Excuse me, what? What caused the Bronze Age collapse? I know that it is a bit esoteric, but I really wanna know for sure. There are a few interesting theories, but no definitive answer. For an event, or aggregation of many events, more accurately, that occurred 3200 years ago, a really good theory is the best I think we can hope for, rather than solved. The disappearance of Sandy Ivine, and what's on the camera he was carrying. Sandy Ivine and George Mallory attempted to summit Everest in 1924. Mallory was discovered in 1999, but the body of Ivine is still missing. It's so freaking cool that George Mallory was found 75 years later. A fake. They still don't know whether he died on the way up or the way down. Odds are on the way up, but it'd be interesting to know. What happened to Shelley Miscavige? She is happy, healthy, and alive. Boom boom. Nice try, David. The Voynich manuscript. My theory, the medieval version of a tabletop RPG manual. I have a shelf full of books with strange languages and descriptions of things that don't exist. That's annoyingly plausible. On the other hand, do you think any of those strange languages are original enough to stump all the world's best minds for centuries? How 4 drinks equals 80 liters of pee. Your kidneys are regulated by a hormone that gets inhibited when you drink alcohol. More kidney action. More piss, dehydration. What is the disturbing hurtful event that my Uncle Bill won't talk about, and what does it have to do with me? I was adopted out. Found my birth mom after she had died, and the rest of her family defers to Uncle about not talking to me because of that event. Mon uncle, it's been over 57 years. If you give more details people might be able to figure it out. Have you had a DNA test done? What was your bio mom's cause of death? Do you know your bio dad? My sense based on the little you said is that your mother was arped maybe by a family member and you were a product of it. But you really haven't given many details. The problem is I don't know any relevant details. I haven't done a DNA test and do not know who my father is. My mom died a natural death congestive heart failure. I'm not comfortable outing a family I don't know just to satisfy my curiosity. Where the hell is Jimmy Hoffa? My favorite theory was that he was put in a car, the car was crushed, and the scrap was shipped overseas. But that's not very likely. He probably went into a barrel, put there by someone who knew how to make sure the damn thing didn't float. Richard Kuklinski said that that's exactly what happened. What happened at the end of the Bronze Age? Like, who were the sea people? I, for one, believe systems collapse theory explains the Bronze Age collapse pretty well. The sea people were probably famine refugees from elsewhere in Europe and Africa, and may not even have been affiliated with each other, but still attacked the rich Bronze Age nations at around the same time anyway. 3n+1 getting finally approved. Was it David Hilbert who said that if he could ask one question of mathematicians 100 years in the future it would be what is the status of the Riemann hypothesis? The collapse conjecture is interesting, but it doesn't compare. There are still Hilbert problems other than right hand that are unsolved algebraic curves, 7th degree equations. Then there are the Clay Institute problems. Generalized Riemann, Navier-Stokes, the Hodge conjecture, PVSNP. PVSNP is massive. Stephen Smale worked on that one. Obviously Riemann is the problem of the millennium. Entire careers are built on that problem. I'm sad that I'll never understand high level mathematics. Whatever happened to my Stone Temple Pilots purple CD from 1994? A tragedy of unmatched proportions. The Planet 9 Mr. Riaka Planet X. I totally want to see this solved. To think it started way back in the 19th century and nearly 200 years later, we are still hunting for a 9th planet. I don't think this is true. The only reason why it is believed there could be a planet 9 is because it would explain the strange orbits of a group of trans-Neptunian objects. None of this was known 100 years ago, let alone 200 years ago. Jack the Ripper and Zodiac Killer. Laszlo Kravensworth from Whitechapel. Are we sure it wasn't actually Jackie Daytona? A regular human bartender from Arizona. What really happened to Amelia Earhart? Didn't they find some bones, a Macube compact of the brand she used, and a pin she was photographed wearing near stone wreckage on an uninhabited island in her flight path or something? It wasn't conclusive, but it was pretty damn likely the answer was that she crashed and died. Most people think she crashed and survived for a while and then died. It's something like 95% of UFO sightings are explainable. Things like an airplane, drones, military flares and even ball lightning are commonly mistaken for UFOs. But what about the other 5%? I mean, the Tic Tac UFO is really compelling. What the hell are UFOs? I have an aerospace engineering degree, and to answer your question, I can tell you that UFOs are unidentified flying objects. Hope that solves the mystery. Anything's a UFO, if you're dumb enough. Who killed John Bennett Ramsey? I feel 99% sure it was her brother and her mother covered it up. I think the dad truly doesn't know / refuses to believe what happened. Whatever happened to Johnny Gosh, a boy who disappeared from Des Moines, Iowa in 1982 when he was 12 years old? What happened to Kieran Horman? I live in Oregon and have a son his age. What happened to him? Stepmother or someone else? I was really hoping this would be solved by now. He disappeared the year I started my career as a recovery tech for mult/clack/Clarkomias. I finally stepped down this year. Pandemic finally burned me out, and that kid is still freaking missing. I can't tell you how frustrating it is. What happens when you die? It's just like it was before you were conceived. Yes, but what the frick was that like? The 1991 Austin yogurt shop murders. The Delphi murders. There's been hundreds of suspects and tips as well as audio and video evidence, yet the results have been fruitless. I read about a new suspect being considered, so hopefully the authorities get something out of that. But I hope both of those girls' families can find peace and justice. The Dyatlov Pass incident. What the frick happened there? There are just so many weird inconsistencies that no theory so far seems to be able to account for it all. MH370 undoubtedly. DB Cooper story is interesting, but I doubt it will ever be solved, so I want to go with MH370 disappearance, because I imagine the wreckage will be found in the next 60 years. There's a girl in my hometown, a preschool teacher, who just disappeared 2 years ago, and they are 100% certain she was kidnapped. There might be an active serial killer in our town and we have no idea where, or who he is. Jack the Ripper. Would it really matter though? Whoever it was would just be some random name we also know nothing about except he had an alias and killed people. Where my wife actually wants to eat. Ask her guess where I'm taking you to eat. Her first guess is probably what she wants. Go there. The maximum headroom hijacking. There is some post that sounds like someone knew the guy who did it, but I want some crap handed out by the FCC or something. Who the Long Island serial killer is. At least 10 bodies have been found around Gilgo Beach. The princes in the tower. Did David Bain kill his family? It's famous local New Zealand history. I highly recommend listening to the podcast Black Hands about the event and investigation. What happened to the guys who escaped from Alcatraz? I know they most likely drowned, but it would be cool to know one way or another. Wasn't it proven that they could have survived the trip on their makeshift boat? I'm kinda of the opinion that they did survive the trip, but then hid out in another country and have probably been dead for a while. I know there is the theory that one of them actually attended the funeral of one of their mothers, but that might just be a false rumor at best. Why when I have a 50/50 chance of putting a USB in correctly I get it wrong twice? Where the heck all the socks that disappear in the dryer go? Why we can send people to space and do all these advancements as a civilization with science and technology, but we still can't fix the public school system? I would love to see this solved before I go. See, that really isn't a mystery though. They absolutely can fix it. They just don't care to. The reasons why they don't want to is up in the air. My bet is that they hope that it keeps more people poorly educated and keeps them as people who follow. The Ark of the Covenant, where is it? I'm fascinated by descriptions of it and its supposed powers. Need to find it to put my mind at rest. If it ever existed and wasn't melted down for its gold, unless it was protected from moisture the same way Tutankhamun's treasures were, the wood would have crumbled away long ago, leaving a pile of hinges and plates. Curing cancer. There are scores of types of cancer. We use the term as a catch-all because they all have a few things in common, but a way to cure them is not one of those things. Dozens of types of cancers have been cured. There will never be a single cure for all of them, just as there can't be a single vaccine against all viruses, for instance. The Black Dahlia. I saw a documentary once where this cop thought his dad was the killer because he was a Hollywood doctor to the stars and found disturbing photos after his death. It was pretty wild. How did some elderly dude sneak up a bunch of machine guns and ammo into a hotel with no one noticing? How did he then open a window that wasn't designed to open? Why did he proceed to fire on a crowd for no real reason? Elderly is a stretch. He's an older guy, but he wasn't so old that he had physical limitations. My mom is older than him, and she was at the festival he shot up and was able to sprint to safety after hopping a fence. Lost Colony / Death Stones. That documentary a few years ago made a pretty strong case that the original stone was legit and all the others obviously fakes. Isn't it pretty much accepted now that the colony ran out of food and migrated / settled with the Native Americans on Croton? I remember watching a documentary about it years ago. What really caused the demise of the megafauna outside of Africa? We lost Tarxodons, Macrauchenius, Glyptodons, and more. Seems pretty clear to me that it was us. I mean, you'll never get a 100% definitive answer, but disappearance of megafauna keeps happening shortly after humans arrive, and you get a little suspicious. First things that came to my mind were Madeleine McCann. What really happened to the people who spontaneously combusted? What was up with the Gibbons twins? And what happened to a local girl about my age who disappeared when I was growing up, Mikkel Biggs? The case of Callie Anthony, where her mother Cassie showed no remorse or want to see her child again, but was somehow deemed innocent. What happened to my friend years ago? I met this person online a few years back. We became very close and even had the same birthday. This was back in the time where Skype was still somewhat usable and definitely before the Discord age. There was a night where we were playing a game and just chilling in a call. She said BRB, and she never came back after that. For 5 days following, she stayed in the Skype call muted and her character was online, a game we played together, those whole 5 days. After the 5th day, everything suddenly dropped, and she was offline until this very day. I hope she's okay. If she was playing a prank to get away from us permanently, that was one hell of a prank. The Krabby Patty secret formula. The recipe to the Ed Ed Eddie Jawbreaker. The Kids Next Door 4th ice cream flavor. Jimmy Neutron's perfect candy. What happened to Brian Schaffer, med student from Ohio, who was seen entering a bar but never leaving? Kieran Horman. He went missing about a decade ago and have found a lot more information since, but the case has not had media attention for a while. I would love to see this one solved. Satoshi Nakamoto. It's insane to me that this guy created Bitcoin, changed the global economy, and no one knows anything about him or even what he looks like. Also his attaché billions of dollars and why he hasn't spent any of it. Kind of an odd one. I can't even remember the name anymore. I think maybe Disney's Discovery Islands. And no, this doesn't have to do with the creepypasta, although I think it's funny. If memory serves correctly, nobody quite knows why Discovery Islands was kind of abandoned, but I think people theorized it had to do with them not being able to protect the animals they had there from like wildlife. I'm not even necessarily curious like why they shut it down as much as I remember hearing from people that snuck onto the island like years, a decade even after it closed, and they were still running power to the lights. Why? I don't quite know why Disney interests me so much, but there is kind of an eerie aura around the idea that there's an abandoned park that they probably still pay property tax on. SPOY. Skinwalker Ranch. I want to know this one too, but sadly it doesn't seem like the current owners really want to figure out what is happening as much as just show/highlight that weird things are happening there for the show. Did Lizzie Borden actually kill her parents? This may be solved before I die, but if not, I wanna solve it. Any of life's greatest questions. I'm optimistic, but also terrified at the prospect that we will soon understand fully our brains and consciousness. Murdered and missing indigenous women cases being solved. The Bermuda Triangle. 7-year-old me has to know. If the universe is part of a multiverse, what happens at the end of Game of Thrones books? Doubt I'll ever find out though. I know they are saying Tara Grinstead's case is solved and they have the perps, but none of it really makes sense. I would like to see more evidence supporting the confessions, because the confessions were just so weird.